Hello and welcome to the Suzanne Atwell Show. I'm Suzanne Atwell. In this episode, we look at the legacy of Marie Selby, the gardens that bear her name, and a master plan that preserves her vision and defines a path to the future based on science, service, and environmental stewardship. William and Marie Selby were married in Marietta, Ohio in 1908. They shared a sense for adventure, and thanks to the wealth from the Selby family business, the couple drove cross-country, making Marie the first woman in America to do so. In the early 1920s, they bought 7 acres of land and built a 2-story Spanish-style home on a point between Sarasota Bay and the Hudson Bayou. They both enjoyed boating, and Marie was devoted to gardening. The William and Marie Selby Foundation was established in 1955, and upon her passing, the property was willed as a public botanical garden. Today, Selby Gardens is one of the top attractions in Sarasota, as well as an internationally recognized botanical research facility. The gardens now include nearly 15 acres, thanks to the purchase of the Payne Mansion and the property. Threats from rising seawaters and hurricanes raise concerns about plants in the greenhouses, as well as priceless manuscripts and historical reference books in the research library. Because of those concerns, a comprehensive master plan was recently completed that will transform the gardens while preserving the ideals that Marie Selby brought here nearly 100 years ago. These panoramic renderings of what it will look like were provided by Selby Gardens. From the bay, along the Hudson Bayou, there will be 50% more green space, new greenhouses, and state-of-the-art exhibit space. As you walk through the stunning campus, plants and building blend to form a supernatural landscape of inspiration and architectural beauty. A totally redesigned reception area near the entrance greets visitors while providing a greenhouse-like experience. The world-class research center and library will ensure priceless books, doctoral studies, and botanical specimens are all enclosed and protected in a hurricane-proof environment. Perhaps the most inspiring feature is a multi-story sky garden, seen here in the left corner of the frame. Notice that it's covered by solar panels, which will power the world's first net positive energy botanical garden. Below the solar panels with panoramic views across the bay, a garden restaurant so visitors can take a break without leaving the park. The Sky Gardens will also provide parking that will increase service to the public and free up valuable land for additional green space. And one thing about Sarasota, no matter how positive a public service or a new development, there will always be naysayers. Case in point, an application by Selby for a zoning change is expected to meet some resistance. Signs protesting the construction of a garage line the street. Concerns that the new Selby Gardens will increase traffic are behind the protests. Ironically, the garage in the Sky Garden is a small part of the master plan. But as we've seen before in Sarasota, when there is really no rational reason not to build, stop in the name of parking and traffic is frequently the battle cry. Selby has held a number of neighborhood comment sessions based on that input. Selby says over $1 million of accommodations to the master plan have been made. The person in charge at Selby is President and CEO Jennifer Romanecki.
There were 3 key challenges that we wanted to tackle. The first is that Selby Gardens has the world's best scientifically documented collections of orchids and bromeliads. And right now they are on the ground in the flood zone in aging infrastructure. Hurricane Irma really put an exclamation point on our need to act. So we knew that we had to do something to preserve our collections. The second challenge is really one about accommodating our visitors.
Right.
On peak days, we turn away hundreds of visitors, and you may know that Selby Gardens and a master plan has never been implemented for Selby Gardens, and the land was acquired in parcels over time, and we're missing some of the key amenities a public institution needs, like parking, orientation, other infrastructure. So we knew we needed to tackle that. And then finally, the third challenge is really about protecting and preserving our history. So as I said, our land was acquired in parcels and it's privately owned.
Right.
And at any time during Selby Gardens' 40+ year history, the land could have been sold for development purposes. And part of this plan, one of the best things about the plan is that we're codifying all of our land as a botanical garden in perpetuity, and at the same time preserving our historic structures for the years to come.
Oh, that's wonderful. So let's talk about the details of the project. Basics, which buildings stay, which buildings go?
Sure. So what's so great about this plan is what we all love about Selby Gardens really does not change. So Marie Selby's original property and the Great Lawn and the peninsula and the gardens, they remain unchanged. We recently designated the Selby House as a locally historic building, and thanks to the Selby Foundation, we are preserving it, and we intend to keep the Selby House. We have the wonderful historic Payne Mansion that serves as our museum building, which is a National Historic Landmark, and we also recently were awarded local historic designation. So in addition, there is our catering facility that was built in the 70s. We're preserving that. And then we're taking that wonderful Augusta block of Palm Avenue and turning that into a pedestrian-only thoroughfare through the heart of the garden and preserving that wonderful old block.
Sure.
So the gardens as we know them today largely remain unchanged. It's the land on the east side of Palm Avenue that we are tackling to put in new cutting-edge infrastructure that we need to operate. And at the same time, by consolidating our operations into the new structures, that's how we pick up 50% more garden space within our existing footprint, which I think is one of the biggest gifts of this project to the community, for sure.
Exhibits. So how will the plan impact exhibit space? How will that change?
So we have gotten on a rotating schedule of exhibits, and we've repositioned ourselves as a living museum, with the idea that museums create changing programs, exhibits, and experiences, because we never want to hear you say, oh, I've been to Selby Gardens, it's beautiful, as if you don't have a reason to come back. So we are already on a rotating calendar of exhibitions, and the calendar really won't change, but our capacity will. So instead, on those busy days when you try to get into Selby Gardens and you pull your car in and you're turned away and it's all willy-nilly and the traffic conditions are unsafe, our new infrastructure will organize all of the cars entering Selby Gardens to the corner of 41 Mound Street and Orange Avenue.
So we hear a lot, of course, as you say, about green space. So will there be more green space because the parking lots will be replaced with a sky garden?
Yes, exactly. So basically right now the east side of Palm Avenue is all surface parking.
Right.
And by consolidating that and putting in the sky garden, that's how we pick up 50% more green space. And we are calling it a sky garden because it's doing many, many things for us. It's all vertical living walls of plants, but it masks 4 stories of parking. We'll house a plant shop on the first floor, and we'll also house a destination rooftop restaurant with the most spectacular views of the bay that will be fueled by an edible rooftop garden. And in addition, the Sky Garden will house a 20,000 square foot solar array that will help us power the entirety of the first phase of the project, making us have the first net positive botanical garden complex in the world, meaning that we will generate more energy than we consume. And the Sky Garden will also house a 500,000 gallon stormwater management system that will collect stormwater, clean it, allow us to use it for irrigation and return clean water to the bay, which we know is so important after this past year. So you can see why I am calling that, you're never going to hear me call that structure a garage. It's a sky garden that's great for the environment.
Absolutely. So when everything is done X years from now, how will this all separate Selby from other botanical gardens? What will be the brand here?
So really, as I said earlier, we have the world's best collections in our area. And we have the world's best talent in our area. So really the one thing we have been missing has been the proper infrastructure and implementation of a master plan. So by implementing this plan, you know, really we will claim our international status as the world leader in our area. And in addition, we are able to really set a standard for what a botanical garden should be. By having this cutting edge green architecture, you know, we really will be an international leader for others to look to and to follow. And in a way, because we had never fixed our infrastructure before, we're going to springboard to the forefront of how you can do this and how to be a model for other institutions. Since we're a public institution and we have more than 200,000 visitors a year, we can teach people about the benefits of green architecture and sustainability and how to mitigate issues in an urban environment, really.
Well, and that goes to my wrap up here that interestingly we are filming this on Earth Day. So Selby's commitment to being a good steward, what we've just heard, of the environment, and how will that all increase with Selby in terms of education, research, and overall, of course, to protect the environment?
Right. So
what your message to Earth Day?
Yes. So this plan will really enable Selby Gardens to be the international leader in the study of epiphytes, which are air plants that grow in the tree canopy instead of the soil, like orchids and bromeliads. So really, plants are critical to all life on Earth. Plants really are responsible for creating 96% of the oxygen we breathe, food, medicine, shelter, clean water, and a cooling system for our planet. And Selby Gardens' role is really to advance plant research to inform worldwide conservation efforts in order to really enforce how important plants are to life on Earth. I think this master plan will allow us to be a leader of that entire effort in our area. And at the same time allow us to connect more people to nature. You know, right now we're very limited and we turn people away, and there are more people that we can reach, more school children that we can reach. Currently we serve more than 6,000 school children a year, and we educate more than 2,000 adults in our adult education program. Increased capacity will allow us to connect more people to nature and really underscore to them why nature is important to all life on Earth.
Absolutely. There is this hue and cry around our community about what would Marie Selby think of all this. Give me your opinion as to what, if she saw this, she would be saying and thinking.
So we at Selby Gardens are very focused on upholding Marie Selby's vision. And in her bequest, it was her wish that she leave her property to be a botanical garden for the public to enjoy. And I think she would be thrilled. She had no idea that over these 40 plus years, the adjacent parcels of land would be acquired, and that we have this opportunity to prevent these 15 acres from further residential high-rise development. I think she would be absolutely thrilled with this legacy, and at the same time, you know, to protect this oasis downtown, and green space couldn't be more valuable right now.
Exactly.
And so to be able to add 50% more green space and at the same time uphold her vision and that of the founders, we at Selby Gardens are so proud of what this plan means to securing our history while also sustaining our future.
The long-term impact of this plan goes far beyond the confines of Marie Selby Gardens. As a part of the legacy that defines the image of Sarasota, as an educational center and inspiration for local students, and as a tourist attraction that generates millions in economic impact. Visit Sarasota County President Virginia Haley shares that side of the story.
Well, we went through a very extensive brand process a couple of years ago. A lot of research, working with potential visitors and with the people here in Sarasota, because it is their brand. One of the things that we found really made a difference wasn't about the things that are here in Sarasota, but the emotion and the connection people have. And what we had, it sounds like a little thing, was the ability for people to feel at ease. That's more than being welcome. It's that comfortable feeling that they fit in, they like what they see, they like the people that they meet. So that feel at ease is the basis. We don't use that in our ads, you never see that word, but then we begin to build the images of Sarasota around that feeling at ease.
We obviously have a lot to offer here, and we're not, as they used to say, the sleepy little village town or fishing village that is no longer a well-kept secret. As you look at the new Sarasota, how has that changed the way you market our community?
One of the ways it's changed is we really have to move beyond traditional advertising. Advertising is still very, very important, digital, print, television, but we really, because of our unique assets, our fantastic downtown, all the things to do, we rely on storytelling and vehicles that can really move those stories. So we like to bring journalists to town so that they can write that longer piece, really describe Sarasota, which no one single ad or little banner on your phone can do. So it's that storytelling that plays the key role in promoting Sarasota.
So let's talk about Selby right now. So how important is the role of Selby as an attraction for out-of-town visitors?
Obviously, it's one of the top things that people look forward to doing when they come to Sarasota. But Selby helps us amplify our message. And I'll give you an example. We worked with Selby on the latest Gauguin exhibit. We identified a fantastic journalist in the UK for a major British newspaper. Visit Sarasota, flew the journalist here, found a hotel. Selby entertained the journalist, really showed the gardens, the new master plans, everything there was to do at the gardens. And then, of course, we showed the journalist the rest of the community. Out of that, you know, you've got that whole huge travel section of the newspaper featuring Selby that just was published. So it's not only Selby, but using Selby to amplify our whole community.
So Selby's embarking on their new future, the master plan. And without perhaps asking you to comment on details of it, speak to the value of just what they're proposing, and do legacy brands, which Selby is, need to hit the refresh, reset button in order to stay relevant?
You know, their plans are, the timing is very interesting because we just finished a year-long process building a new strategic plan for all of Sarasota County to carry us to 2025. One of the key components was really looking at the difference between an attractor, something that actually drives overnight visitation, and an attraction, something that might be something nice to see and do while you're already here. And Selby was a great case in point that you can take something that is merely an attraction and help them grow to be an actual attractor, and how important that is, because if you aren't constantly refreshing and improving the assets within a destination, you wind up going on a downhill spiral.
You mentioned destination curve. What is that all about?
A destination curve really looks at a destination starting out. You are bringing in the visitor who has the spending ability to support the fine arts, the culture, the lovely attractions like Selby. So you start to see the visitation grow, the economic impact grow, but then it can stagnate and even start to decline if you aren't continually improving, bringing on new assets, updating and refreshing.
Right, and that's the refresh, reset, and that seems to be what is happening with Selby right now. As you know, there is already some pushback for Selby. Stop, don't build, we don't want it there, I've got mine, we pull the ladder up. So from a Visit Sarasota perspective, don't organizations like Selby have to evolve to remain competitive? How do they do in the face of opposition? Oftentimes in our community there is the other side. If you're not for us, guess what? You're against us. How does Selby fit into all this with this major master plan they're coming up with?
Well, without commenting on the specifics of their plan, I like to take us back 50 years. You know, you look at, for instance, the Bayfront.
Right.
It had some recreational facilities, a few shuffleboard courts, I believe. You know, it was the Sarasota Jaycees at the time who had the audacious vision to build and raise money for a performing arts hall. We all now take it for granted that we have a performing arts hall. So
The JCs.
The
And that
JCs.
seems like an anachronistic word.
Yes.
You don't hear about that.
No, you don't hear about them anymore. But again, it's about the leadership in the community gradually evolving Sarasota over time to things we take for granted. I mean, I've forgotten about the fact that at the heart of our downtown used to be a Goodyear tire store. Nothing wrong with Goodyear tires, but is that really what we wanted at the heart of downtown? And people were upset about changing that and putting a library there. So I think it's good to take that long-range vision, really look at the fact communities do grow and change, and the fact that we're always looking for that quality in our community.
And neighborhoods evolve too, and oftentimes melding the relationship between neighborhoods and the project. So I look at Selby and wonder how is that going to work out in the long run, because you talk a lot about the history. What are we going to do coming up, maybe from your perspective of Visit Sarasota, to get the message out that this is for the greater good? And maybe we use that expression too often.
Well, and I look at Selby itself with the last big change in the gardens, with the addition of the children's rainforest.
That's right.
I mean, I don't know how many times I've gone there with the grandchildren.
Yeah.
You know, as a local resident,
Right.
it's a huge asset for visitors. It's a huge asset. That was a big change. That was a huge new feature. I think it's been embraced. People love it. I think the possibility that we're going to be gaining more gardens is very exciting through the process. So I think, again, it's about taking a longer look at where our assets are going to be, and things that are really trying their best to improve the organization and be an asset for all of us in the city and the county.
As the president and CEO of the Barancik Foundation, Terry Hansen knows a thing or two about philanthropy and environmental stewardship. She is also on the board of Selby and recently shared her thoughts on the importance of investing in the future of this iconic institution.
It's our responsibility to get this master plan done, to preserve those collections. Same with the collections of orchids and epiphytes we have. We're the only ones in the world who have this kind of collection. And it's right here in the middle of our downtown.
And I also hear that we are very concerned with sea level rise, and we have to continually be mindful of protecting all our amazing assets. So it seems that that's part of the design.
Right now, simply, they are not safe.
Right.
and to give a better experience for the visitor to really learn about what we have and the importance of the plants that we have here, the fact that they make the air that we breathe, the importance to the environment, our ecosystem. This is an important educational facility, and we just don't have the facilities to do everything that needs to be done.
Let's talk funding now. There are a lot of big projects going on in our community, so how is it going and what can people do?
I mean, funding is, I think, the most exciting part of the project, because people have come to us and said, I want to be part of this. What can I do? And I'm talking with large gifts. They want to be part of this exciting downtown project. They want to make sure it's preserved. They want to make sure, quite frankly, that their name is on something that moves us into the future. So it's been exciting to see the excitement around the master plan, because people understand how valuable this is to the city of Sarasota and the whole region, and want to make sure that it stays and can grow and be good for future generations.
Sure, and you obviously have your finger on the pulse of the philanthropic community and have for years. So it just makes sense that you're getting people lined up to help, which distinguishes this, it seems, with a lot of people vying for dollars in our community.
People understand the lasting nature of Selby Gardens and the importance, again, to our environment, the importance to educate future generations about the native environment right here. I like the fact that you can stand there and look out into the bay, and there's signage telling you what you're looking at, doing the sounds so you can see what's under the water and hear what's under the water. That's an important educational piece to our children and to our community.
Absolutely. Well, we both know that there are some folks in town that don't want more development. The drawbridge factor, they pull up the ladder and they keep what they have. I'll take mine. So what would you say to them now?
Well, I saw an article recently, and it showed the corner of Palm and Main and the troughs to where you tied up your horse and could give your horse water. And I thought, I'm sure when those were removed, there was a hue and cry. How could they do that to us? I think for each step Sarasota takes, people get concerned that something's changing, but I think ultimately they see it's for the best. So if we can just have faith that this is what's for the best for our community, I think it'll be fine. And it could be, I suppose the board could say, you know, people don't want it here, let's move the plant somewhere else and sell the land and put condos, because there could be that there. This master plan project will make that so it can never, ever happen.
Right, it's in perpetuity, because that is the other side of it. What would it, people that are against this, what's the plan? What would they want to see happen, other than no change?
And I think people who are fortunate enough to be able to live around Selby, how lucky they are. I mean, to have this big, beautiful yard right in their own backyard, it's a gift to them, and I think just also helps their home values. And once the master plan is fulfilled, it'll even be better.
Well, and they have, there have been a lot of meetings with the neighbors, the advisory group, and you have had meetings, which is very important, as we know, to everybody in the community, so that they can have their say. But that has been done, for sure.
Right, and we're spending another $1.5 million because of their feedback, which is exciting. I like I think they call it a MIRT, the walking trail that's going to go up around it. It really will make it a better place for everyone, visitors and people who live here.
Right, it seems that they've proffered some things as a result of those meetings. In addition to being on the board of Selby Gardens, you are also the CEO of the Barancic Foundation. So as you look at all the public-private initiatives that are going on, rub your crystal ball and tell me what you think we're headed for down the road. What's the future of our community besides being great for warm weather and lovely beaches?
Well, again, I think it's will be known as a community that is environmentally sensitive, sustainable, and Selby will be at the center of that. I believe we'll be known as a community that cares about our environment and wants to make sure that every person in our community has the opportunity to experience this, to learn, to grow. I think it's a city poised for greatness, and I'll be glad when people say, oh, can you believe little old Sarasota has fill in the blank. We're not little old Sarasota now, but we'll never be that thing people fear. I just know we won't. There's too many great leaders who are protecting what we have and making sure we grow in a way that will benefit everybody.
Well, and we do have so many wonderful foundations, of course, and the philanthropic community that values Sarasota. Not only wants to preserve, but to bring it into state of the art and into the next century.
Absolutely, because any of those philanthropists could give their money somewhere else.
Right.
Any of them. But they choose to invest in Sarasota because of how special it was, it is, and it will continue to be.
Absolutely.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another really big and exciting project going on in Sarasota. And if you would like to donate to this project, go to selby.org and click the tab that says Get Involved. Of course, you can watch this episode and all previous episodes on our website, SuzanneAtwell.org, our Facebook and YouTube page. We hope you enjoyed the show and learned something. Thanks for watching, and until next time, we'll see you around town.